Hey guys, so I'm going to go over a little bit of how I get started on fitting a illustration into a space with other artwork around it. As you can see here very lightly, there is a tracing of the actual previous artwork in behind this sheet here. And I've overlaid it with my onion paper or tracing paper. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to kind of give myself those little bits of areas that I've traced out. So I'm drawing this because I know I need to avoid these areas, and whatever I do for the artwork that I'll be doing today, I want to make sure that that won't be interfering anywhere. There are a couple other things because this is going to be a tattoo and it's going on the body. I've also mapped out where the client's shoulder blade matches up with her arm. So this little crease in here will be the armpit. And then we have the shoulder bone that kind of has a convex shape on the outside of the shoulder. And then I've mapped out here where the trap is, and we want to kind of stay within these borders. Now I won't be taking this right to the front of her arm. I'll be taking it probably to the back where it starts to do that ball, because for future reference we'll have some area up here that can be wrapped onto the front there to match with what's going on with the rest of her arm. Just mapping out where her neck starts outside of her shirt, and then we also have another previous tattoo here that we want to avoid having our illustration over. I can keep in mind that I can go in behind, but I never want to touch my line with the previous line that's already there. So what I like to do is, if anything, for excess artwork that I'm doing, I'd like to put it in behind that. I don't think it's going to be really much of an issue for this piece here, as we are stopping just before we get to the actual spine. So we have this fun space right here. Now it looks two-dimensional and quite flat, however this will be curving and turning over some of the areas. I've also established a little bit of a flow line that I want to follow, but we'll get into that after. The next part, after I do this, is to give myself a grid, also kind of like the rule of thirds. So this puts you in a box and allows you to have a thumbnail image of what you're going to be illustrating. Now these don't need to be very big, about 3.5 inches wide, about the same as a business card. And this portion is going to help you block in all of those rough shapes so that you can get a visual on how everything's going to get placed out. So if we start here, there's some areas in this that I'm not 100% sure of, but one thing I do know is how I want to bring this piece in. And how I'm going to be bringing this piece in is with the wing of the bird that we're going to be drawing. And that will allow us to have some forced perspection here, and then bring the rest of the bird head into this premises over here. So I'm going to go ahead and get some thumbnailing done and catch you back in a little bit here. Okay, so here I've established my thumbnail. Here's a business card as a size reference. So it's actually just a little bit smaller than the business card, but that's all you need to get the visual for what you're going to be illustrating in full size here. This gives me my template on how I'm going to be organizing the bird, that forced perspection wing, and I've also brought in a flow into the background of this here. So that will be getting worked all the way through after I've completely drawn the heron in this. So first step is to get this laid out as I would on the body part there, and just rough it in, because we're going to get into all the details and stuff after that. This is a method that I actually learned between two people, one of those being Cam Evans, the previous owner of Boulevard Tattoo before it had shut down, and the other person who had helped me with this technique is Clint Danroth, who actually learned that from the Dutchman. Pretty neat little trick here to get you going in the right direction, but this shouldn't take you much longer than 5 minutes. And work with the elements that you know for artwork. So I'm gonna start drawing on the actual sizing here, and we'll get our first rough draft in there, and I'll catch up with you after that. Okay, so I've taken my thumbnail image and I've now redrawn it into the actual area of how the illustration is going to sit onto the body. Tried to keep it as close as I could, but again, the thumbnail is a quick drawing just to get the shape and kind of formation of everything. So what I've done differently here is I've actually changed some things in the neck. I've brought that back of the arch in the wing, and I've brought that right up around where the shoulder area is, so I can kind of match that curve in there. And again, I've just placed everything where I kind of want to see it. Another thing I did was to incorporate where the armpit sits, and the previous tattoo, I've brought in some negative space in. I've done some cattails and just some tall weeds. So this is actually going to have nothing in it. It'll just be getting the image drawn from that. There are some little areas in there that will be filled in just to give you that real illusion that it is the absolute foreground of the actual image. Now what I'm going to do is I'll probably keep the camera running for this and speed it up so you guys can get what I'm going to do in probably a couple hours, all in just a minute or two. Now I'm going to go through, I'm going to give myself all of the little fine details that I want to see in this. I'm going to draft out some of my shading areas so I know where that's going to go. I've done a little bit of detail up in the head already just to establish that that is the head shape that I want to go with. Also giving the dimension between the beak and the head itself, making sure the proportions are where we want to see them. I did start getting into a little bit of the background there, but I got ahead of myself. First thing you want to do is make sure everything is drawn in how you want to see it. Then you can start going in, finding the flows that you want to see and bring those out to life. One last thing before I start the time lapse, I did put another layer of transfer paper on. This is just part of my processing. Once I get the rough in, I start going in for the details on a new sheet, and I'll probably do it one more time when I go in for all the flow. This just alleviates all of the random sketchy lines in there. It gives us a really good pure photo of what the illustration is, and it helps out quite a lot for the end result. If there are any errors made during the process of this part, you could just tear it off and start over just like this with the base still in there. So enjoy the time lapse. Okay, so here's what we have for the finished secondary drawing. So we have the negative space in, and we have the full bird with that forced perspection of the wings, which I'll go back in here and I'll tidy some of these things up. Definitely want to see a little bit more of an edge to those feathers, how they kind of widen out before they taper down at the beginning here. But yeah, this is why it's good to have layers. So now that I have this drawn up, I will put another sheet on top of this. I'll go through, I'll develop my flow in there and how I want to bring a background in. And then after that, it's time to get it on some skin. So I hope you enjoyed the process and me talking to you guys today. Thanks so much for watching.